Oh man, you know you're working on an old MacBook when you literally have to close everything out in order for your like video not to lag. Whatever, man. Apparently they don't make them like they used to, and I'm still working on a MacBook Pro from 2012. Welcome to Casual Friday, guys, which means I have not showered. Today we're going to be playing a little game that I am very creatively calling This or That. It was based off the fact that most of the questions that I get in my comments or on Instagram tend to be around two or three products that you are typically right to wonder what the differences are between them because they're very similar. I opened this up to my Instagram stories, which by the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, it is at Hey Kackie. We have so much stupid fun over there. Instead of commenting on things, I just post them to my stories anytime I like something. I just post it to my stories because I apparently just need attention. That's like the essence of my Instagram stories. And also these kinds of surveys and polls and stuff where you can influence my videos. I got an absolute deluge of requests and a lot of people just saying, this is a great idea. And I was like, that's so validating. Thank you so much, because above all, I want my videos to be useful, right? So I have gone and gathered a lot of things. I didn't even have to gather that many things because a lot of your questions have to do with my like top shelf, which means the general surface of makeup that's sitting in front of me on my desk. It's just how I think, it's my process. Most of it is stuff that I use all the time and you guys just want me to demystify and help you decide, because Lord knows no one else needs a heaving to the point of becoming self-aware makeup stash the size of mine. So I am only going to be answering the ones today that I already had the items on hand, and you know, by virtue of that fact, also have a lot of experience working with the product. So I can tell you guys, you know, straightforward, yes, no, why, whatever, versus a lot of you guys also requesting things that you're curious about that you've obviously been like, you know, deliberating on your own. And I don't have the products and I haven't tried them yet, which is so cool because I don't want to only be trying like new products all the time. And the fact that you guys sort of like reached back into the annals of history, that gives me phenomenal insight into future videos and future forms of this video. So that will kind of inform the next iteration of it. That said, I think that the concept is pretty cut and dry. Let's go ahead and jump in. The one that I got the absolute most out of everybody, I probably got, I don't know, 10 of this request. The Cosis concealer versus the Thrive concealer. If I had to pick one for the rest of my life, I would have to go with the Cosas because I think it has more shades and it is higher coverage. The only thing that I would have a misgiving about there is just that it does have a slightly more mattified, more made up finish to it versus the Thrive, which completely disappears into the skin. It is like the ultimate no makeup concealer that's still a concealer, and it's very hydrating. So this is 1.5C right here from Cosas, and then this is the Thrive Fair Warm. And as they dry, you can see that Cosis is just gonna get a little bit flatter, but it also has more coverage. That's why if I had to choose one, I would choose that one, because it's going to be more useful in more use cases in my makeup routine. Fortunately, I don't have to choose between them, but if you're choosing between them, understand hydration, light coverage, disappear into the skin, that is the Thrive. A little bit more mattified, more satin on the skin, more coverage, and more versatile is the Cosas, and more shades. The one thing that would hold me back from making that recommendation is just the feedback that I've gotten from you guys time and time again. I've never experienced this, so I always forget to mention it, but that Cosis expires really fast. Apparently, everybody says that theirs starts smelling really crazy really soon after they get it. So keep that in mind. I'm really not sure what the science is there because, you know, it's a clean formula, but it's got silicones in it and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure it's got regular preservatives in it. And the Thrive has a 12-month shelf life, and Cosas apparently has a 6-month shelf life. So if you're gonna go through it really fast, you know, no problem at all. I don't really ever notice that issue, but it's definitely been a concern that's been expressed in the comments, so bear that in mind. By the way, the answer is yes, I do have a bald spot, and that is actually why I have often switched my part. I was hit by a car in 2008, and that is a scar from where their windshield cut me. I have to mention that every once in a while. Okay, Melt Blush Lights and Tower 28 Beach Please blushes. I liked that it contained the word please because it seemed like it was just like a polite way to ask, and then I was like, oh, that's the name of the product. Anyway, so I have one of each right here, and this is Power Hour in the Beach Please. I do have all of them, and this is a very similar one. This is Daydreamer in the Melt Cosmetics. Now, I will say unequivocally, if what you're looking for is something with some shimmer in it, go Melt. The Melt Shimmer formula is so beautiful. I'll show you. So the Tower 28 one is not shimmery. I shouldn't say it's matte. It's dewy, but it's not shimmery. And the Melt has shimmer to it, but it's not glitter. You know what I mean? It just has a really, really beautiful luminosity to it. Bear that in mind. If shimmer is what you want, I would highly, highly, highly recommend Melt Cosmetics. And for the not shimmery formula, we'll call it matte just for the sake of conciseness here. It depends on whether you want something really, really dewy. I personally prefer the Melt because of the way that I like to wear cream blush, which is in combination with powder. If you're wearing it on its own and you love that bouncy look that you get from like a true cream, I would go the Tower 28 route. They do have a lot of shades. I have heard that they tend to go ashy though, even the deepest shades on some skin tones. So I would recommend swatching them if you are concerned about that. The Melt ones, the only concern that I have there is just that the shade range doesn't ever really go super like cool toned. It's very tan, pink, orange. So that could also be really good news for some people. The thing that I love about the Melt Cosmetics in the use case that I prefer is that it is almost like a dry oil. It's still creamy, but it's so light on the skin. It is very, very thin. If I were to create an original formula, you know, from scratch of a cream blush, that's where I would start because it's just unique in all the right ways. It still packs a really good impact punch, but you can put, I'm wearing it kind of on top of everything right now. This is Honey Thief that I have on my cheeks right now, and it's so cooperative on top of powder because you really don't feel it on your skin versus some of the true cream blushes that I feel like are just more noticeable. Glossier Skin Tint versus Typology. Let me go pull those. Okay, so I have Typology here in 1 and I have Glossier in G11. Those are my shades in this. I'll go ahead and swatch these for you. Okay, this is actually a really, really good visual aid here. So you can see the Typology right here. Even though they both have really low coverage, Typology is probably twice as much coverage as the Glossier. Glossier is just not a foundation. It's like a blurring texture with a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of tint, whereas the Typology is more perfecting, which sucks to say that because Glossier is called the perfecting skin tint. But the other thing is, even though the Typology does not have silicone in it, it has a really beautiful dry down. And I do feel like for the money, I don't know, I just feel like the Typology has like more versatility. You can wear it super, super thin and it basically does the same thing as the Glossier, but you can also wear it just a little bit more built up and you'll get a little bit more coverage out of it. And it also cooperates better when you are trying to get like more of a look. I feel like with the Glossier Skin Tint, it's gonna kind of soak powder up. You know, it's not quite as versatile. It really wants to be worn a certain way. I would go with the Typology. The only reservation there is just that the Typology has like 5 shades, 6 shades, something like that. They do still do that thing where they sell you your main shade for full price, and if you need to mix to match, they'll sell you another shade for half price, which is pretty cool, but they have been raising their price steadily too. The other cool thing is the Typology comes in glass and it's got really great like skincare benefits to it. I just find that my skin is happier when I wear this too. So yeah, I would go Typology unless what you're looking for is truly no makeup, in which case I would go with the Glossier. Pat Mcgrath Luxe Glosses versus Cosis Glosses. This is easy because these are so different. They serve entirely different purposes. Cosis is not sticky. It is a lip oil. It is super, super nourishing. It's going to make your lips healthier if you wear it all day, even in like cold weather and stuff. And it feels just as much like a treatment as it does a lip gloss. Pat Mcgrath Luxe Glosses are fancy, okay? They are not ever there to not be noticed, okay? They are thick, they are syrupy, they are, you know, probably a little bit sticky for some people's taste. They have either a really, really amazing color payoff or they have a really, really amazing texture payoff, like in the case of Pale Fire Nectar. These are main character energy. Oh God, they smell so good. They really remind me so much of lip gloss. But what I was saying is their main character energy, like you pretty much like can't put one of these on without knowing that you've put one on. It's gonna be a look, whereas I feel like the Cosas ones, yes, they have tinted ones. The Cosas is it's just a more like chill vibe. I think you just buy them for different reasons, you know? If I had to pick one for the rest of my life, I would plead to be able to pick two because they serve totally different purposes, but I would probably pick the Pat McGrath because it's like one of my favorite products ever. It's gonna leave the white ring around your lips. It's going to be syrupy and sticky. There's something about them though that's just so freaking glamorous that I'm willing to put up with it. So yeah, I love them. That was my worst answer yet and I knew it was going to be. Okay, so I don't have this on hand anymore, but I wanted to go ahead and answer this. Bare Minerals Gen Nude Buttercream Lip Gloss. I think that that's their older lip gloss, right? Versus the Westman Atelier Squeaky Clean Lip Balm. I'm pretty sure that the Gen Nude Buttercream is like the stickiest thing I've ever used in my life. So, and the Westman Atelier is phenomenal. It's so good. I would definitely recommend that one. Rowan Liquid Lip Balm or Fit Glow Lip Color Serum. So for very many reasons, I would go with the Fit Glow, mainly because as far as the cost is concerned, you're getting more bang for your buck with a Fit Glow serum. They also have so many more shades. Rowan has so few shades and I really, really dislike the new glitter formula. And for those uninitiated on this formula that we're all collectively obsessed with, it is a very, very similar formula in the sense that it has this funky liquid lip balm slip to it. It's something that once you try it, it's really hard to go back because it's just such a comfortable thing to wear. But as you can see, Rowan really lacks in shine. It's shiny, but it's just not as shiny. And the Fit Glow is just, it's bouncy, it's nourishing, it's going to do the job, and it's got a lot more shades. So that's just which one I would go for. I don't even really feel like I made a very good case for that, but if I had to go like one versus the other, I would definitely go Fit Glow. Do I buy more Aether blush or Hourglass blush? I'm low on powder formulas. Can I complicate your dilemma a little bit further and offer you Skin Fetish Divine Blush from Pat McGrath? I'm telling you, if you are not obsessed with this formula, I will eat my hat, okay? It is the easiest, creamiest, most finely milled, gorgeous formula, and these colors are so wearable. I have 3 of them, they're gorgeous. I'm wearing them right now. I genuinely come back to these over and over and over and over again because this is just an obsession-worthy formula that's like really, really hard to explain. It just has a blur on the skin that, ignore that finger, it's immaculately conceived, okay? And they're sheer. They're very, very easy to work with because they pack the exact right amount of pigment. I feel like Aether, sometimes you have to be careful because they are super, super pigmented. And the Hourglass ones, my mother, you know, I tried to give her my Hourglass palette and she was like, this is so shimmery. That's the only thing is like, sometimes the Hourglass is just too shimmery for some people, especially depending on the skin maturity and like texture. I would highly recommend before making that decision, you just go and like swiggity swatch the Pat McGrath ones in store or something because they are better than both of them. Sorry, they are. Ilia Skin Tint or Cosis Face Oil. I'm not really sure that I even need to make the case for this because my feelings are so strong on it. I would definitely go for the Ilia. Like TLDR, the Ilia is so, so ultra beautiful. The main reason is just that I find this formula to be a touch finicky. It just doesn't have a whole lot of technology to it. And don't get me wrong, I like it. You know, it's pretty and it's a nice finish on the skin, but it doesn't really do anything. You know what I mean? It doesn't have like a beginning and a middle and an end to the way that the formula goes on your skin. It's just either there or it's not. And the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint, I mean, look at the difference. People are gonna be like, I feel like you didn't shake that. Okay, fine. It's like we got all oil. So the Cosas is right here, and then this is the Ilia, and the Ilia is still, you can shear it out to the point that it looks like the Cosas, and it does have a little bit of SPF in it. And you can wear it a little bit more built up with concealer and things like that, and even powder it. It's just a more versatile formula, so that's why I would recommend it. Ooh, for pale lady contour, AKA nougat colored, Salt New York or Westman Atelier. So the Westman Atelier Biscuit, oh dear. Aha! Sometimes I'm more organized than I give myself credit for. I love that you describe your skin as nougat colored. That's awesome. I'm about to blow your mind because honestly, a lot of this just comes down to swatching two things next to each other and you go, oh. Now I'm gonna go in pretty hard here because I want you to see the difference in the color and the texture. That's Westman Atelier Biscuit, and that is Contour from Salt New York. It's grayer, it's sheerer, it is lighter, and this is browner, more of like a, I almost said more of a biscuit color, like bring out the hook. It's just an entirely different nature of product. I love both of them, but I feel like the Salt New York is a more effective contour. I have been corrected so many times because I have accidentally called Biscuit a bronzer, because for me, when I'm looking for a bronzer, I do want it to be a little bit cool toned because I can't really wear things that pull orange. And so I can wear Biscuit as a bronzer, a true bronzer. Whereas the contour from Salt New York is like, if you want to build a believable illusion that there is a shadow existing on your face or exaggerate the shadow that's already there, that color is going to do it. Because it was conceived for that specific purpose by someone who really knows. Well, not that Gucci Westman doesn't know what she's doing. I think that that's just more of a multitasking product, whereas Kackie was like conceiving that for like photography and, you know, making an illusion look real. Cosis concealer and Ilia concealer, that's easy. I like them both, but I do really prefer the Cosas. Again, for very much the same reason between the Thrive and the Cosas, just because the Cosas is more flexible. It has more coverage. It's not full coverage, but you can get pretty full coverage out of it, whereas the Ilia is so light coverage, it's even lighter than Thrive, I feel like. Ilia versus Cosas. Cosas is just a creamier formula, whereas Ilia is just a beautiful, hydrating, brightening kind of concealer, but it's not going to give you that full coverage. I love this one. Fenty Body Sauce or Patrick Ta bronzer. I know they're totally different mediums, but I'm on a budget. I think that's the entire reason that I'm making this video, so I appreciate your question. You're trying to decide between these two. First of all, it's important to understand your undertones, because bronzers, regardless of their delivery system, it's only useful to you if it matches your skin, and there are only so many shades in any bronzer range, so, you know, go swatch them in store and be like, you know, does this work for me and my particular skin? That's, you know, the big disclaimer on a bronzer. Now, if both of these work for you, I have Pearl Swirl and I have She Statuesque, I would definitely go for the Patrick Ta. This is a unitasker to me. I know that, you know, it can go everywhere and things like that, but I mixed it today with my Chantecaille foundation, and that is my favorite use case for it. But as far as like using it as a bronzer, I've seen Kate the Great do it, and she's amazing at it, but for some reason it just doesn't work as well for me. It's just tedious, and it's not enough detail for me to get like bronzer from it. It's more of like a overall deepening of my entire makeup look. If that's what you're going for, absolutely. $45 gets you a butt ton of product, but $48, I think. If what you're really looking for is a bronzer, not only are you getting a bronzer and a contour separately here that can be used for those multiple purposes, but it's just easier to use this as a bronzer. It's a lot easier. If what you're looking for is put it on a brush, put it on my skin, I want it in specific places, it's just so much easier to work with. The other thing is, wow, is this comedogenic? It is scented, and I think it must have some, you know, silicones that are just not super duper agreeable to my skin. I break out if I use this too many days in a row. And it's not like some kind of like clean beauty gouge or something like that, because Patrick Ta doesn't make any claims one way or the other either. But I just notice it with this. It must be the fragrance, something in it. If I do use it day after day after day, I will start to notice that my pores get congested and I start breaking out. So bear that in mind as well if your skin is sensitive. Oh boy, just bronzers. Like, how does one even know a good undertone for oneself? That is a whole other chapter, but I will say the only way that I have ever really been able to do it is to demonstrate it, like on myself. You know, I put something on and I'm like, that's too green. And you can just kind of see it. Describing the color wheel is so much less helpful than people think it is because, you know, your eyes are either trained for it or they're not. I would just say, like, you kind of have to like go and get samples and try them and stuff and see what works, and then swatching them next to each other, like swatching one that works versus one that doesn't work, even on the back of your hand, and saying, oh my gosh, up next to each other, this one's so much more gray, or this one's so much more orange, and then kind of chase that feeling, you know? That's the only way that I figured it out too. But now I can look at one and say, I can tell that's probably going to be too orange when I put it on my skin, just by looking at it, you know? Salt New York versus Patrick Ta bronzer contour. So this is the Patrick Ta, this is the Salt New York. Salt New York is peachier and the contour is sheerer and a little bit more tan. Whereas the Patrick Ta is a little bit more like intensely pigmented, even though it is still sheer, and it's going to be more of kind of like a rosy gray brown. And the bronzers, as you can see, are kind of a flip-flop in that direction. So it's like the Patrick Ta is gonna be a little touch more orange, and I love this bronzer. This is the Sculpt and Bronze Cream Tint Pro in Light. This is my bronzer shade, but it's so peach. It's beautiful. If you want a powder bronzer, there's an easy decision for you because Salt New York is all cream. The cream formulas themselves, though, are extremely similar. I would say, like, you know, I'm not sure that I could pick one or the other out of a lineup. If I had to pick one, I would probably still go with the Patrick Ta though, just because of the powder versus cream. I like a powder bronzer and I like a cream contour. It's just personal. I like the conciseness of the packaging. Body Sauce and Hollywood Flawless. Those are two very, very different things. And I would definitely go with the Body Sauce. I mean, that's a bronzer versus a highlighter. I'm not trying to roast you or anything, just like giving you a very, like an accurate representation of the two. And especially because like the Hollywood Flawless filter, I feel like is a very outdated formula. It's hard to work with. It gums your makeup up. She makes a little like glow wand, like this one from Beauty Pie, that I think is way better. So if that's kind of what you're going for, do something like this, or there's tons and tons of like cream highlighters out there that I think are so much easier to work with. The Hollywood Flawless filter is a very frustrating formula. Cosis concealer or Hourglass concealer. I did declutter the Hourglass concealer, so I can't swatch that for you, but I mean, obviously pick Cosis because Hourglass, it's so heavy. If you're gonna wear a really like full coverage concealer, that's pretty much the heaviest one that I have ever tried. I was shocked how heavy it was. It was like really great creamy coverage, but it dried out as my skin got dry. It was really, really not awesome underneath my eyes, and I found that I like the Pat McGrath one better and the Rose Inc one better. And someone did ask which one I would pick between these two. So this is the Rose Inc. You don't see this that much on my channel because I definitely bought too light of a shade for me. It's almost kind of like gray. And then the Pat McGrath I use all the diggity dog darn time. Look, this is what I'm talking about. Like if you were to swatch two bronzers against each other, even the untrained eye could be like, oh, that one looks X versus Y kind of thing. Like this looks green gray compared to my shade in the Pat McGrath, right? So if I had to, you know, pick one direction or the other for this, I would go Pat McGrath just because it's full coverage without completely getting away from you, and it's very self-leveling, whereas I feel like the Rose Inc is almost a Danessa Myricks like concentrated product. It's not even a concealer. It's like you could put one dot of it or mix it with like an oil or something and make a foundation out of it. You could cover your entire face with like this much product. God, that color's wrong for me. Wow. Yeah. Yikes. It is like full on green. If I had to pick between the two, I would go Pat McGrath. It's just easier to work with in my opinion. And I like the finish of it better. It's a little more hydrating and it's a little bit more kind of like better than skin when it dries down. By the way, like no one is paying me or has ever paid me to be as obsessed with Pat McGrath as I am. I'm just obsessed with Pat McGrath. As soon as I was bitten by the bug, I was off to the races. So it's no one's fault but my own. Cosas Airbrow or Glossier Boy Brow. Oh Oh, that's hard. Glossier comes in like 5 shades and Cosas comes in 10 and a clear. So on those grounds, I would definitely say Cosas. They also give you a lot more product for your money. Here you go. If you're wearing it over a pencil, go with the Cosas. If you're wearing it by itself because you have enough brows, you know, to beat the band, go with the Glossier. I think this is how we're gonna close the video out, okay? Because this was the biggest question that I got besides the concealer question, and I kind of have to combine them all because there's such an amalgamation of these comparisons. I have Charlotte Tilbury Oyster Pearl, I have Auric Temper, I have Victoria Beckham Tea Rose, I have Hourglass Scattered Light in Ray, and because I think it's relevant, I have the iconic chrome pigment paint in Alluring from Illamasqua. So the first one was, which would you prefer, the Charlotte Tilbury or Auric? For the money, I'd probably go Auric just because you get 2 eyeshadows for one kind of thing. And I'm not really sure exactly how it shakes out, but you know, they're super, super, super similar. I actually really like the Auric formula because it is a little bit shinier and a little bit less creasy. The Charlotte Tilbury is very wont to crease, and the topper, the like celestial topper here, it's a little underwhelming. It's still very, very pretty, okay? So that's the Auric situation versus the Charlotte Tilbury situation. And the Charlotte Tilbury colors, there are more of them. If that's important to you and there's a color that only exists in that line, then you probably weren't the person that asked me this question, but I do prefer the Auric formula. It's just lighter weight and it doesn't crease as much, and you get like the celestial shade to play with on top of it. You know, talk about a phenomenal one and done, right? You know, Glossier's over here like, oh, let's give you, you know, a quad with 3 shadows in it, all of these different textures, and Auric was like, no. Like, I'm gonna give you exactly what you need for a one and done. And I really, really appreciate like the entire delivery system there. It's so beautiful. Now, the reason that I don't reach for that often, and we're going to take a little detour for just a second because it feels relevant and someone did ask to compare these two. So we have the Exaggerize from Charlotte Tilbury, and then I have, they just said Charlotte Tilbury Quad versus Wayne Goss, okay? And these are the most similar ones to me. So Charlotte Tilbury does have one of those celestial shades in this little quad. And this thing is very precious. I think that they are $53. It's a very beautiful formula, set of formulas, really. I will say her celestial formula in here is pretty, but also a little underwhelming to me. It's just not quite as much payoff as I would want, especially when you've seen something like the Wayne Goss or the Scattered Light from Hourglass. And so I wanted to show you guys why I prefer the Wayne Goss now that Pearl exists. So not only has he managed to kind of, I think, do a good job of duping that what we called kind of an undupable shade that was from the Charlotte Tilbury palette, that's that funky lavender that people tend to pan, and then they're like, what do I, they pan and then panic. And then her celestial shade is like kind of underwhelming, like I said. Oh, stop focusing on my face. It's off the charts gorgeous. His celestial shades are just unbelievable. So if you were choosing between the two, we're talking about a $2 difference between the Charlotte Tilbury and the Wayne Goss, and you get 6 gigantic shadows or 4 tiny shadows. So freaking similar. I'm not making any accusations here, okay? They are, you know, very much like a bridal colorway, right? But I think that this is just such a better bang for your buck. I like the performance of the shadows better, and I don't think anybody's surprised by that. Okay, back to the creams. So the next thing that someone wanted me to compare was the Hourglass Scattered Light in Ray versus the Victoria, well, not in Ray, just Hourglass Scattered Light. This just happens to be the only color I own. This is what I'm talking about when it's like, when you see a celestial shade like that, it's really hard to not roll your eyes at other celestial shades because it's just enchanting on the skin, and it really gives you the same payoff on the eyelids. So much of the time these things swatch really beautifully, and then when you put them on your eyes, you're like, huh? Where did it go? Because it doesn't like take well to being like spread out. This just gets prettier and prettier and prettier as you spread it out. It's a phenomenal formula. And I do think that, you know, as Auric was probably like trying to go for that, like that's Hourglass Ray and that's the Auric Celestial, it's just night and day different. You know, it is, to me, if that's the, you know, the kind of finish that you're going for, it's worth it to me to either, you know, buy the individual pan of the Hourglass or go with the Wayne Goss palette. Now, we're about to throw a wrench in the system here, and that is the Victoria Beckham Lid Luster formula, which is totally different from all of those, okay? This is Tea Rose, and it is so freaking gorgeous. It's so nuanced and gorgeous and slightly like purple. And the biggest difference there is that the Hourglass is like 20% pigment, 80% celestial shimmer, and the Victoria Beckham is like 33, 33, 33. It's like 33% pigment, 33% foil, and 33% shimmer, like glitter. So you're getting kind of a much richer punch and full coverage color with any of the Victoria Beckham lid lusters, whereas the Hourglass Scattered Light is a wash of color and like this spray of glitter. It's a completely different aesthetic on the eyes. You can build it up, but you know, you'd probably want to put a solid color down before you put it on. It's almost a glitter topper, basically. Hopefully that helps. And because I think that it's a relevant comparison and it's a lot more cost effective, the Infinite, what do they call these things? Iconic Chrome Pigment Paint from Ilia. I'll put it right here since that's easier for you guys to see. It is like 100% foil. So yeah, 100% foil, 80-20, glitter to pigment, and then like equal parts pigment, foil, and glitter. Does that help? And if I had to, this is gonna surprise you guys, if I had to pick one, I think I'd still go with the Hourglass. It's magical. It's magical to work with. And if I had to wear one of them alone, I feel like that one's the most flattering because it doesn't toy with your eye the way that something with a foiled texture does in the crease. If I were to wear a one and done shadow, I am far more comfortable using something that has pigment and glitter than I am something that has like that foiled shimmer kind of thing to it that's going to accentuate texture. So if you wanted the reasons and then my actual opinion, I would still go with the Scattered Light. I don't think I need to tell you guys. I'm glad I own all of them, but you don't need to. Oh man, that is just like the prettiest set of swatches I think I've ever seen. It's kind of like my, you know, when I swatched all of my one and done shadows all over my face and you guys were like, those are all the same color. I'm like, I kind of have a type, I think. What I have on my eyes today is actually just the Pat Mcgrath Holiday Palette, and I used mainly this color right here, and it has this really cool kind of oil slick shift to it. So that, I think, concludes our very first ever This or That on a Casual Friday. So if you guys enjoyed this concept, do let me know, and also leave comments down below for others, I know you will, for other products that you're kind of stuck between, that you're hung up between as far as your purchasing decisions, and I will hopefully help to demystify those for you guys in a future version of this video, and I will link all the products that I just mentioned down below. Feel free to discuss in the comments all of your experiences with them, whether you agree or disagree with me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and keep an eye out on my Instagram for future prompts of this nature, because I love being able to make very useful videos and accommodate as many of these requests as I can. So if you found this valuable, do give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.